Earlier in the day, there had been reports that O.J. had killed himself. I didn't know what was going on. Then some drunk leaned over and slurred, "O.J.'s in the car with a gun. Half of Los Angeles is chasing him." I wasn't that interested. I wanted to find the game. So I dragged Mary, who was 5 months pregnant, all around Boston, looking for a decent bar that showed sports. There wasn't a single one. All of them were tuned to O.J. I couldn't believe the people of Boston hated New York so much that they would rather watch a freak show than the finals of an NBA game. I didn't sense the magnitude of that moment. Big deal. It's not like I didn't have a part in the night's drama. Kind of. This was before the internet was big, remember? I didn't care about the chase, so Mary and I just went back to our hotel and went to bed. In the morning, we drove 25 miles to the wedding in Salem. As soon as I walked through the door, I was barraged. "You were on TV last night. I can't believe you were in the middle of the O.J. chase." Well, I wasn't. I was asleep next to my pregnant wife, completely ignoring the chase because I was pissed no one would show the Knicks game. But when a loyal and genius fan decided to call Peter Jennings, I instantly became a part of the biggest story of the decade. Here's how it went down. We have with us now Mr. Robert Higgins, who can see inside O.J.'s car. Mr. Higgins, can you see him doing anything specific? Jennings asked. He's just sitting there looking nervous. Can you hear anything? There's too much commotion, but I can still see O.J., and he looks scared. Thank you, Mr. Higgins. And Baba Booey to y'all. Jennings pulled a Larry King, confused silence. He had no idea what had just been said. If not for an explanation from Al Michaels, a fan of the show, who happened to call into Jennings after hearing the magic words, the anchor would have remained in the dark. Peter, Michaels began, just for the record, that was a totally farcical call. He said something in code at the end that is indicative of the name of a certain radio talk show host, so he was not there. Okay, Al, Jennings said, thank you very much. Not the first time or the last time we'll all have been had. We live by a rule on the show. Don't dissect the comedy. Do that, it's no longer funny. So we've never tried to break down why Baba Booey sticks with people. But we did analyze that prank call as much as possible. We wanted to make a Broadway musical about it. We even recreated the entire scene and had Al Michaels on to reenact his role. You could tell he had a hard time explaining to Jennings what had happened. He didn't really want to admit he had a foot in our world. It's like being at a party and admitting you know the slob who just walked through the door. After that, it became so much more than just a catchphrase for fans. Mary and I have had this conversation a lot. It doesn't really mean what it meant anymore. It has morphed into something entirely different. Howard will sometimes say to me, can you believe it's lasted so long? But it's not about me. It's just something said to make other people laugh, whether it's sitcom songs or someone's living room. Or airports. When Jackson was 3 years old, we visited my brother Anthony, who had moved to Austin, Texas. The two of us were sitting at our gate waiting to go home when a man walked by and said, Hey, Baba Booey. Jackson couldn't stop laughing, and I asked him, what's so funny? He looked at me with a big smile and he said, he thinks you're a Baba Booey. Truth is, I am.
Greatest all-time Baba Booey shoutouts.
God, there's been so many of them, and I love them all. Number 10, David Letterman's top 10 list. It shows up a bunch of times. Every once in a while, Letterman will randomly insert Baba Booey into his top 10 list. It's always a little funnier when Dave says it. Number 9, Dan Patrick on ESPN SportsCenter. In 2003, the Cubs were 5 outs from going to the World Series when a fan named Steve Bartman interfered with a foul ball that would have been caught. They went on to lose the game, extending their World Series drought. On SportsCenter, anchor Dan Patrick takes a call he thinks is from Bartman. Instead, it's Captain Jenks who screams Baba Booey just before he hangs up. Number 8, Larry King. In 1992, billionaire Ross Perot was running for president. During an appearance on Larry King Live, Bob from Booey calls in and asks Perot if he can mind meld with Howard Stern's penis. Number 7, 30 Rock. Tina Fey tells Tracy Morgan that she's worried she may have said something inappropriate to a guy. Tracy replies, inappropriate? I yelled at Baba Booey at Walter Cronkite's funeral. I don't know what inappropriate is. Number 6, the King of Queens. Kevin James is on strike, and when his wife comes home from work, she finds him still in bed with a phone to his ear. He says, I've been on hold with Baba Booey since 6:30. Number 5, Conan O'Brien. Triumph, the insult comic dog, covering the 2008 presidential debates at Hofstra, says, Long Island is buzzing. I haven't seen this many people since a Baba Booey in-store appearance. Number 4, Family Guy. Peter is testifying before Congress. When he's at a loss for what to say, he yells, Howard Stern penis, Baba Booey, and then runs out. Number 3, Survivor, one of my favorite shows of all time. 5 seasons ago, the last challenge of the year was called Bob on a Booey. Number 2, Saturday Night Live. The day after we left K-Rock, Tina Fey did a bit on Weekend Update about Iraq's presidential election. She said the candidates were Ahmed Habibi, Muhammad Ali Baba, and the winner was Baba Booey. Number 1, we just talked about it in the previous chapter. Nothing will ever beat Peter Jennings' ABC World News Tonight. Baba Booey to y'all.
Chapter 6. There is such a thing as being overprotective.
As I said, my parents briefly followed the Cotroneo tradition when they married. They moved into one of the apartments in my grandparents' building in Bensonhurst, close to the rest of my mom's family. That arrangement lasted for a little over 2 years, until the night Stephen was born. That's when my grandfather kicked them out. Everything was going smoothly when the night began. My mom had an easy delivery while my dad stood vigil in the waiting room, passing out cigars to celebrate the birth of his second son. Once my dad had seen his new baby boy and made sure my mom was comfortable, he headed back to the apartment to get a good night's sleep. As he lay in bed smoking a cigarette and reflecting on the day, he started to get tired. So he rolled over, snubbed the butt out in an ashtray on the nightstand, and fell asleep. Problem was, he didn't put the cigarette out completely, and he was a restless sleeper. At some point during the night, he knocked the ashtray off the nightstand. The smoldering cigarette rolled under the bed and lit the rug. Smoke started to fill the room and seep into the apartment upstairs where my uncle lived with his wife. I told you the Cotroneos were tight. The smoke woke up my dad, and he frantically tried to put out the fire. Meanwhile, my aunt ran down and started banging on the door. She was screaming for my dad to get out. When he didn't answer, she yelled, "Oh my God, he's dead, he's dead, he's dead." But I wasn't dead, my dad told me. I was just too busy trying to put out the fire to answer her. When I finally did, there was smoke damage all over the room and in the apartment above. And your grandparents never bothered insuring anything. So, well, they were mad and we had to move. For the next several years, my mom, dad, and brothers bounced around Bensonhurst, never straying too far from my mom's family. But in 1963, a couple of years after I was born, my mom and dad decided it was time to decamp for the suburbs. We settled in Uniondale because my mom had a sister living there, and it wasn't too far from the city for my dad to commute. Now, there are plenty of really fancy upscale places in Long Island, but Uniondale was a blue-collar town. Lots of my friends' dads wore uniforms to work with their names stitched on the front.